Beautiful downtown Vancouver with just, it's like technology transitioning right into nature out here. Big shipping ports and everything. Just a beautiful place. And I got to meet up with the guys from Ness. They're actually from Florida, but they were out here just doing some vacationing, touring around with their bikes. And I'm looking at the Icon. This is their wave or like deep step-through model, and I love that they offer this in addition to a more traditional mid-step frame, because it brings it down a little bit more and it gives you some color options. These ones are white with accents, whereas that one is black with accents. Black with yellow, orange, red, black, white. This one, it's white with orange, yellow, red. There's even one with kind of a pink accent mark there, or logo. One of the things that differentiates this one from the Rua, aside from the color and the frame design, is that there's actually integrated cabling happening here, so it's a little bit cleaner. And that's just, it's beautiful. Like, yeah, you know, they stick out here a little bit, but one thing they've added is a stand at the bottom, a support arm. It's going to protect this chain ring. It does have a plastic guide, and that keeps the chain on track if you're going over bumpy terrain, because this is actually a pedal assist and throttle operated e-bike. Sometimes when I'm going with a throttle, especially up to 20 miles per hour, that chain can start to bounce around a little bit. So we get down here a little closer. Check it out, they've got another guard right here. It's a steel derailleur guard, and that means if the bike tips over, it won't bang up this derailleur. It won't knock it out of true. You won't have to get a tune-up as quickly, I suppose. I mean, over time, the cable stretch, you still want to get a tune-up. But the other thing is that these wheels, they're cast magnesium. So when you're riding this bike, over time, spokes kind of get loose. They might need some truing, or if you're really heavy, you put a heavy, bundle of gear on the back, that can actually break spokes eventually. This isn't going to have that. Those magnesium wheels, they're super strong, but you do sacrifice a little bit of comfort because they don't flex the way that spokes do, and maybe you add a little bit of weight. This bike was actually fairly lightweight considering the battery size, the alloy fenders and rack and everything. It's like 51.5 pounds. It's not bad, but sometimes you think about these folding bikes, you're like, look how small it is. It's still heavy. Still got a 350 watt internally geared hub motor back there, encased in the wheel. So it's, I think, very well protected and a little bit more discreet. It's not very loud either. When we go out there later, you'll see that. And then the battery, it sticks out a little bit, but at least the weight is pretty well centered on the bike versus rear mounted or compromising this whole folding step over thing. I've seen these other batteries that fit inside the down tubes. It's kind of a wavy frame. They don't get that deep step through, and you have to open the frame to get the battery on and off, whereas this one, it's a little bit more accessible, and it's huge. It's like 42 volt, 13 amp hour. I can't confirm that. There's no stamp on the outside of the battery pack, but I did look at the tech specs on the website. I talked to the guys. They said, yeah, it's Samsung batteries, and it weighs 7.5 pounds. So this is a good thing to take off the bike if you're going to move it. You do have to unlock the battery in order to remove it. So we do that. You can flip up the saddle, which is really nice because otherwise you have to pull out the seat post every single time, and then you just slide this up. And you know what? I actually just locked it. So this is a good reminder. Every time you go riding, lock the battery, because if you don't, it can rattle around a little bit more and maybe damage those pins down there. We take it off. It's a nice looking battery. It's got a handle, little LED charge level indicator on top, so you can see, oh, do I need to charge it before I go out for my next ride? And I'm trying to get that to work right now. Not actually seeing it. Hopefully this one is charged. Let me put this back on the frame. Whoop, lining it up with one hand. Nice. Seats down really nicely. Some of these other bikes, some of the cheaper bikes, just getting it to seat right and everything can be a problem. This feels really smooth. Even though they ship these here, they arrive in great condition. And then you put the battery or the key into the ignition and then turn it to on, and it does not come out. Okay, so it's like a car. You kind of have to leave it while you're riding, but that means it can jingle around a little bit and get in the way. It's mostly out of the way of your pedal strokes, but that's one area where it's like, it's a little bit cheaper. And this bike is a bit more affordable. It's $13.95. They do sell through some shops like in the Miami area, but they also sell online direct. And that's why, I think it's kind of important to get a thorough look with a review. There's a lot of little things you can miss, like that flip up saddle, even the seat post diameter. So let's pull this out. Just unlock it right here, quick release, pull it all the way up. It's fairly long, and it's 28.6 millimeter diameter. So if you did want to replace this, you might lose that flip up feature, but you could get like a suspension seat post to complement that front suspension. And even though this is a little bit basic, it's Zoom Aria, it's only like 35 or 40 millimeter travel, you do have some preload adjust, and that sort of tells it like how much force before I actually give you the suspension. So you can dial that up a little bit if you're someone who's heavier and you feel like it's constantly bobbing you around. But I felt that this actually worked very well. And I love that it has quick release too, so you can reduce even more weight and make it even more compact when you're moving the bike. And then for someone who's a little bit taller like me, I like to have my saddles really high so I get full leg extension while pedaling. And the seat post accommodates that, so I love it. We got the rear rack, it's alloy, a little bit of a pannier blocker thing going on here. You've got a spring latch going on, standard gauge tubing. That derailleur guard's going to protect the motor cable and the derailleur from tipping, but also from a longer pannier, and just keep that out of your spokes and from rubbing and stuff. And then we were talking about comfort a minute ago. This is 20 by 1.75, so it's a little bit fatter, and that's going to give you some comfort along with this plush saddle and the suspension and these ergonomic grips. They're a little bit more basic, you know, they don't lock, they could spin on you, but they're rubber, they're a bit fatter, and they feel nice. And while we were on the topic of, you know, seat post length, check it out. This stem actually telescopes up so you can get even more height and have this upright ride, so you're looking up versus leaning way down and maybe cramping your neck a little bit. I love that. Overall, I think the bike is quite nice and very comfortable. Just gonna wheel it over here, show you the other side. This is a pretty good brake setup as well. You can see there's 160 millimeter. These are Tektro Z-Star mechanical. It's not quite as easy to actuate as like a hydraulic, and you don't have the adjustable reach levers, but at least they have motor inhibitors, so whenever you pull those brakes, it sends a signal for the motor to cut off. And that's important when you're using a cadence sensor pedal assist system. See those magnets back there? There's 12 of them, and as those magnets pass a sensor, it tells the motor to start or stop. But it's a little more rudimentary than like a torque sensor or a multi-sensor like you'd see on Bosch or some of the really nice high-end bikes. I think it does a pretty good job here. And 12 magnets, that's the most I've seen on a lot of these, you know, sensors. A lot of the older ones was like 6 magnets, and you had to pedal a lot longer before it caught on and actually started. And you've got throttle override, so if you're trying to start from 0, as long as you're in a level of pedal assist, it works. And I just feel like the whole thing, you're getting a pretty good setup here. I actually really I like how the choices that they've made, and those disc brakes, coming back to those, it offers you enough stopping power, especially because the wheel diameter is so small. If these were really big wheels and the bike was even heavier and this was designed to go off-road, then you might want 180 millimeters, but you know, 160 is fine for around town, and mechanical helps you save money. So the price point on this, $13.95, I just keep coming back to that as like, that's pretty good, especially for having an integrated blaze light right here. That means it runs off of the main battery pack, and there's a Spinninga Duxo rear light, but this one, it's not integrated, so you have to use AA batteries and occasionally change those out. You could accidentally leave it on and, you know, walk away from your bike and come back, and it's like, you know, you would have worn it down. So yeah, in a perfect world, the lights would be integrated, you know, that kind of thing. Maybe the battery would even be integrated, but then the price goes up. So I think that's a pretty good kind of overview between the two. I might just back up and, you know, give you another look. Yeah, I feel like personally, maybe the white appeals to me because it's going to be a little bit more visible in traffic, and I do tend to bring like a bag, and I put like a water bottle in it or something. They have ones with a little holster at the back. This doesn't have bottle cage bosses or anything, but you know, that turns into your storage. And I've kicked and hit my shin on these racks before and stuff. So even as a guy, like, this looks, it is a bit more feminine, but I think the white is safer, and I definitely like the step-through design. It's just super easy to get over this bike and handle it. Very nice. Okay, so the key's in, we've turned it to on. We hold the power button up here on the display for a second, give it a moment to calibrate, and we've got 4 bars on that battery indicator. That's not great. It'd be nicer if there were like 10 bars or even a percentage, and I haven't really been able to test it too thoroughly, but sometimes on these cheaper bikes there's kind of a sag, so like you're running the motor real hard and the battery will sort of drop, like, because it's measuring voltage. It's not real accurate, but I haven't seen that on this one. And there's a timer. Assist levels goes all the way up to 5, like we were talking about. Speed, right now it's in kilometers per hour, but you can change that by holding up and down arrow, and then it opens like a menu, so you can say, oh, okay, do I want to clear, first of all, I'm clearing those trip meters to actually get to the, let's turn it off. To get to the settings, you have to turn it on. This has to be like the first thing you do. Turn it on. There we go. Hold up and down. There we go. So it says max speed. You can bring that down if you want to. And then 20 inches, that's the wheels. And then kilometers, I'm going to change that to miles, just because that's what I'm used to from the United States. And then that's it. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and exit this menu. And now we're back to the main display. So if I take this all the way down to 0, this just becomes like a cycle computer, but I do get that headlight. And that's something I appreciate. It's aimable, it stays mostly out of the way. It can be a little bit of rattling sometimes. Alloy fenders tend to be strong and rigid. I like that there's enough clearance here with the rack, but we've got one support arm there and then a couple connections. It's a smaller length, right? It's a shorter length, so there's less to rattle around, but this could banged a little bit, especially if you're folding it up. So just be conscious of that. We'll get to that later. So we're back up here at the display. Throttle's not working because we're in 0. I'm going to go ahead and arrow it up to level 5. Why not? Stow this kickstand, but I do want to call out that it is in the way a little bit of those crank arms. So some people, you're like, you're in your garage and you start to walk the bike back, and then it collides with the kickstand and kind of mars it up over time. So keep an eye on that. I'm going to go ahead and show you the cadence sensor in action. I would call that very responsive, especially for a cadence sensor. I had no problem. Now I'm going to go the other direction. And remember, I said 350 watt motor, which sounds kind of average, but those smaller wheels give it that mechanical advantage. So let's give it a go. A little bit. We're having some wobbles up here. It's a little bit squirrely because it is a 20-inch wheel design. Yeah, you can see the handlebars bouncing around. Not quite as confident on this bike as I am on some of the other full-size tires. And then I'm holding that brake lever so that the assist won't get out of hand and surprise me. Beautiful spot to ride around. Hey, buddy. Uh-oh. Scared him away. I think that's just about it. Might bring some guys in to help fold this now. So I got some help. We're going to bring that seat all the way down. Just love that support arm. Get the kickstand out of the way. I'll help fold the pedal here. There we go. And we got that main folding joint there. You had to unlock that little plastic piece so that it could fold. Brings it around like this. Go ahead and set it forward. There we go. Perfect. Keep the wheels together. One thing this does not have is like magnetic clasp. It doesn't come with like a Velcro strap or anything, but a lot of times I'll grab a bungee cord. Oh, we got a prop plane getting ready to take off on the water. Sorry for the interruption. And then the stem folds down like this. It's pretty compact, when all is said and done. Not bad. And again, it's key to protect that plastic chain guide. Just really nice. Guys, I think that's about it. It's been fun to check out these Ness folding bikes. There's a lot of value there, especially at that like roughly $1,400 price point. They have a 1-year warranty on this, comprehensive, 5 years on the frame. And if you live in Miami, I think you can actually go try one of these out. But otherwise, I've got all the measurements for both of these bikes, standover height and all that, back at ElectricBikeReview.com. Have fun out there. I think it'll help you stay dry with those fenders and ride safe. See you next time.